Demolitions and the use of bulldozers as a way of law enforcement continues to be under scrutiny of the courts and of our political discourse. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. Today, we'll be looking once again at the issue of contentious use of bulldozers by governments in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. In UP, there have been a spate of demolitions targeted against the homes of those the police say have been linked to the recent violence that has taken place in the aftermath of the Prophet Mohammed remarks row. Yogi Adityanath himself has endorsed the use of bulldozers, and today the Supreme Court, hearing petitions against this, said that bulldozers and demolitions could not be used as a retaliatory measure, that due process must be followed. However, the use of demolitions has not been stayed, at least not yet, by the Supreme Court. The big question before us is this: are bulldozers legal as a use of law enforcement? Let's go across now to one of the top legal minds in the country. We're joined by Justice Govind Mathur, who's been, of course, the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. And remember, the Allahabad High Court has, in fact, delivered certain critical judgments that actually point to the fact that what is happening in Uttar Pradesh is possibly illegal. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to start straight away by asking you, you have written in the Indian Express and you have also spoken about how this is extrajudicial. And of course, you will be able to tell us better, but we also did a little bit of research as images of demolitions have grabbed our headlines. And we found that though there is a government order, and I'll just bring up that order for you, though the government in Uttar Pradesh says that this particular order was in fact released several days before the protests actually took place and turned violent, what is clear is that if we turn our attention to an Allahabad High Court judgment of 2020, the judgment clearly stipulates that no actual demolition, and I'll just bring up the excerpts of this judgment, no actual demolition should take place before the statutory period of appeal is over. And if you go back to the Act, to the 1973 Act, then we see that the statutory period of appeal is 30 days. In other words, even going by the government notice, no demolition should have taken place before the 24th or the 25th of June, because the demolition order was in fact passed on the 25th of May. Justice Govind Mathur, this was your High Court. You know this better than any of us. Are these bulldozers as a measure of law enforcement legal, sir?
You see, so far as the use of bulldozers, if there is a valid order for demolition, then all right, they can go with bulldozers. But provided the order is valid, this is, you see here in the instant matter, neither the proper notice has been given. The order, as you said, was passed on 25th of May, and the limitation prescribed for filing an appeal, that is of 30 days, and that would be expiring on 25th of June. Before that, whatever action taken by the government authorities, that is apparently bad, that is apparently illegal, without jurisdiction at this stage, because the remedy of appeal is a statutory remedy, and the division bench of Allahabad High Court in Abbas Ansari's case issued certain important directions, including that the actual demolition can't be taken place without the before expiry of the limitation period. And this is quite clear from the admitted facts that this order of demolition was passed on 25th of May, and actual demolition took place on 11th of June. That is at least 15 days in advance to the expiry of limitation for filing an appeal.
Would you then say, sir, that the demolitions in the way that they have been carried out and at the time at which they've been carried out, and frankly seem to have more to do with teaching a lesson to those that the government or the police say are culpable of violence or other violations of the law, would you say the bulldozers, and as they are being rolled out in Uttar Pradesh, are illegal?
You see, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, we are seeing from last several days that the government, for one or other reason, is taking the steps which are not at all in accordance with law. In the present matter, it was only a protest that took place, and if anybody took law in hand, then the appropriate course was to arrest them and to take legal measures in accordance with law. In this case also, certain arrests were made. So there was no need to go with demolition. Remembering that at the initial stage, the certain police officials also said that yes, it is for the reason that certain persons took law in their hands while protesting, but they corrected themselves by subsequently saying that as a matter of fact, this construction is illegal. The use of bulldozers as a retaliatory matter, this is apparent. This is the time clearly indicates, it reflects that these bulldozers have been placed only and only to teach a lesson. It is only a retaliatory measure. No law has been adhered, nothing has been done, and this is brutally this action has been taken. This is not at all permissible in a society where rule of law prevails.
Those are strong words from you, Justice Mathur. And the thing is that even though the officials are claiming that this is about illegal structures, if you look at the tweet put out by the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh himself, there is actually no ambiguity. It says bulldozer action against criminals or mafia will continue. So there is no ambiguity that this is very little to do with illegal structures and more is being used as a measure of law enforcement, Justice Mathur. And as you said, this is illegal. It goes against, all sort of tenets of jurisprudence. What should the courts be doing in this situation? The Supreme Court today told Uttar Pradesh very clearly that demolitions cannot be used as a retaliatory measure, that due process must be followed. But at the same time, they did not halt, they did not put any stay on demolitions and said a blanket stay is not possible. What do you make of the Supreme Court's response, Justice Mathur?
Barkha, so far as the interim order is concerned, there no blanket order can be passed. A demolition can be made in accordance with law as the Act of 1973 provides for that. Before making any demolition, they are required to adhere the due process of law, and the court rightly said that they will not raise any development authority of the state of Uttar Pradesh. They will not proceed for demolition in violation of statute. It is expected from democratically elected government. They will adhere the law. They will follow due process of law before demolition. And I am sure this order, the observations or order passed by the court, that would be enough for staying, for not going for demolition without following due process of law.
Sir, I don't know if I share your optimism, because we are seeing this in Madhya Pradesh, we are seeing this in Delhi. The Allahabad High Court judgment that you quoted from is also under appeal in the Supreme Court, but of course it has not been stayed, so it is still good law. You use the word brutal. When you talk about brutality and a certain kind of targeting retaliation, could you elaborate on that observation? We've seen it happen in Prayagraj, where a student activist and her father has been called the main mastermind, Afreen Fatima, and their home was razed, as it were, to the ground. But we've also seen it happening with lesser known homes and accused, for example, in districts like Saharanpur and so on. So how would you classify what is happening in Uttar Pradesh today in terms of how the bulldozers are being used?
You see, it is the total circumstances and reflects that as a matter of fact, these are being used as a retaliation. And now the Supreme Court has given certain directions. As you said, that I am quite optimist, and yes, I have full faith in our system, and I feel that the state government will adhere the directions given by the Supreme Court. Otherwise, the courts are not at all helpless. Courts can pass appropriate order to bring the things in line. If the state government still violates the order passed by the Supreme Court or directions passed by the Supreme Court, then appropriate steps can be taken, appropriate orders can be passed. Nobody is above law. We are living in a democratic state. We are living in a society where rule of law prevails. It is not easy to violate the directions given by Supreme Court.
Sir, I was struck by the irony that we are a country that gave due process even to a terrorist like Ajmal Kasab. You know, his case, the one of the 10 terrorists who laid siege to the city of Mumbai, his case went all the way up to the highest court before he was, of course, given rightfully the death sentence. Are you concerned, sir, as a senior legal mind, as a leader of the sort of the legal community, that due process is not being taken very seriously, and in fact the opposite is happening here?
You see, the problem is that our executive feels that they are supreme, they are above law, and they can do anything to administer the people. They don't know that we are living in a democratic society where rule of law prevails, and as a matter of fact, it is now for the legislature and the judiciary to take appropriate action to bring the executive in line. You see, the use of, so it is the actions taken by the executive everywhere. You will find in the Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and everywhere in the Jangirpuri at Delhi, that the executive thinks that they can do anything. The courts are not going to charge orders for compensation from their own pocket. I feel now this is the right time when personal liability is required to be fixed. That is to be fastened on the officers and the responsible persons. That would be appropriate to bring the things in line. Till today we are passing the orders, judiciary is passing the orders to compensate the victim, and that is on the state exchequer. It is the right time when personal liability is required to be fastened.
So you're basically saying that if any officer or politician is found violating due process, which has been directed by the Supreme Court today, that politician or police officer or bureaucrat should be penalized. Am I understanding you correctly, Justice Mathur?
Yes, but instead of using the word politician, I am saying any member of the executive, and that includes any person holding any office of the state, may be in bureaucracy or as an elected representative holding any office.
So you spoke about how the Supreme Court, or indeed even the High Court, could take suo motu action. The Supreme Court, of course, gave these directions or made these observations in response to a petition by one of the Muslim groups. But do you believe the courts have done enough? Because, you know, we have seen bulldozers not come out for the first time in UP. This has been done before. We have seen this happen in Madhya Pradesh. There too, there has been a kind of, a political brazenness, if I may use that word, or an executive brazenness by the executive, that this is the right way to go. Do you believe our courts are doing enough? Our judges should be more proactive on this matter?
No, I would not like to comment on this issue. I think the courts are doing their work. Let them work. Now, it would not be appropriate for me to comment that what stage they should take cognizance, suo motu, and what stage they should work on the representations or the petitions filed by the individuals or collectively. I feel that judiciary is only the institution in which people are having a lot of faith. Let it be strengthened instead of causing any injury to it.
One final question, sir. There's a lot of scrutiny on the court, even when it comes to the spate of petitions now about whether they were temples where mosques stand. I'm referring, of course, to the Gyanvapi case, where the Supreme Court has, of course, sent the case back to a Varanasi court. My question to you is, do you believe the Places of Worship Act of 1991, which basically put a freeze at the time of independence with the exemption of the Ayodhya Babri Masjid Ram Mandir case, which has now been settled, do you believe the Supreme Court has disregarded the Places of Worship Act? What do you make of its handling of the Gyanvapi petition?
You see, this at the first instance, the suit was filed at Varanasi. I am of considered opinion that the trial court at the first instance should have not passed any active order, any actionable order, without first verifying that whether it is having a jurisdiction or not to entertain such kind of suit. In my opinion, Section 3 of the Act of 1991 specifically bars jurisdiction to entertain a suit in such kind of matters. The exception given under Section 4 is only with regard to the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid case. Instead, in spite of that, the Varanasi court proceeded in the matter, passed an actionable order that was challenged before the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court remanded the matter. I personally feel that the Supreme Court should have examined this aspect of the matter, that whether the court is having any jurisdiction or not to entertain that suit. But in any case, the matter has been remanded, and now no actionable order is required to be passed without first settling that whether the Act of 1991 is having any application in this matter or not.
Well, Justice Mathur, all we can say is that thank you for being an outspoken voice in these times when not many people speak their mind bluntly and plainly, and you are, of course, following the spirit of the law and of our Constitution. Thank you so much. I do hope that with your words and what the Supreme Court has directed today, we will at least cease to see bulldozers as an instrument of managing crime and law and order, and we will see the constitutional principle of due process upheld. Pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalists.